On this date, 1 year ago, as many of you will recall, the world of UFO research was rocked by a front-page story in the New York Times. That story revealed the existence of a secret Pentagon study of UFOs. Actually, there were two studies, maybe more, and a program that looks at cases related to encounters with unknown aerial vehicles and the U.S. military, such as the now famous Tic Tac and gimbal videos that were released by the Pentagon, with some urging and arm twisting and help from a guy who for 10 years headed that in-house study at the Pentagon. His name is Lou Elizondo. Elizondo first stepped forward in October of last year on a stage in Seattle with Tom DeLonge, and they dropped the news. But it didn't get a lot of attention. That changed when the New York Times carried the story. And as we have now learned, there wasn't just one study. There were two, at least. A second study commissioned by the DIA, that's the Defense Intelligence Agency, sponsored and authorized by then Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. The contract was awarded to an organization called BASS, based here in Nevada. And the first hint that BASS existed came on this program. It's September 2008, if any of you might remember that. That was a week after the contract with the DIA was signed. As we now know, over a 3-year period, that study collected a huge database of UFO cases and evidence and produced dozens of scientific papers. Most of that information has never been made public. And the contract, as we now know, was killed. The program ended. Lou Elizondo says the quiet study, the one inside the Pentagon, continues. Maybe there's more than one. AATIP is the name we now know, but maybe there are other smaller studies and other names. That story in the New York Times was prompted by the To the Stars Academy, Tom DeLonge's group, which is where Lou Elizondo now works. This week, I wrote a story based on an interview with Elizondo in which he dropped some pretty broad hints about what might be coming next. Last weekend, I was in Phoenix at the invitation of the excellent MUFON group there, gave a little presentation. Thanks again for the hospitality, Arizona MUFON folks, as always. And while I was there, people were asking what might be coming next. And I predicted that 2019 will be a pretty big year, building on all the work that's already been done, all the pieces of the puzzle put into place, and building also on this tsunami of media coverage that finally seems to have captured the attention of some of the power players in Washington. You know what? I have no business making that kind of prediction. There are some big things happening behind the scenes. There is legitimate interest in figuring out this UFO mystery, how we can do a better job of getting our heads around it. And Elizondo seems to think that big things are coming as well. And you can see that in this story and the interview that we posted online. But to be completely frank, it's very difficult to make accurate predictions like this because there are so many variables, so many moving pieces. If you are hoping, as I am, that maybe Congress will authorize a new ongoing study, something that's well-funded, something that the public will be allowed to know about, we'll be able to see what they find. Well, who knows if that's where it's going to end up. Congress has a hard time even passing spending bills to keep the government open. And few, if any, regular bills pass anymore. I mean, the partisan divide is so strong there. So starting a new program, getting it authorized officially on the budget, on the record, is a tall order the way things are. At a minimum, I think what started a year ago today really has moved the ball down the field. There really is official interest among congressional staff and elected officials, and I think it's going to be tough to stuff that genie back into the bottle. So while we are all impatient, and we want it all, and we want it right now, I think that's not likely to happen. I hope 2019 really is a big year where genuine progress is made, but I'm not a psychic, so hoping is about the best I can do. If you want to see the interview we had with Lou Elizondo, we posted it on the Coast to Coast website. It's embedded in a news report that aired here in Las Vegas. You can see the story and then the raw interview, and you can try to read between the lines of what Elizondo is saying here and predicting. Now, he can't spill all the beans in direct language, and I think you can understand why, because it's pretty sensitive stuff, and it's still in the works. But he says a lot if you watch it. We also posted an excellent link of all the news stories from around the world that came out since this day last October. It was compiled by our friend and a former guest on this program, Giuliana Marinkovića, and it's a great resource for anyone who wants to see how this ongoing story sort of unfolded around the world through various media.